And the DVD goes through the chapters just like I did, but it also has some things that he did that aren't in the book. And just advanced training, because someone could take the DVD and a book and hold their own little training for a few more that wanted to do it at somebody's house or whatever it might be. That's yours. The DVDs belongs to the church. There's two discs. And so I bring the books and that's all. And so you can expand it from there. All right, next part. This is where it gets practical. This last hour is where it gets really practical. What's the problem? The problem is, why has our church become this way? Look at Matthew 9, talking about the sower of the seeds. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plenteous, the laborers are few. Look at Mark 4 down there, 2 more paragraphs. These are the ones sown among the thorns. They are the ones who hear the word, but the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and desires for other things enter in and choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. That's what's happened to most of our church members. It's not that they hate the church or they're mad at God. They're just busy. They're just busy doing stuff, and before they know it, 2019 is gone and they haven't done anything to change someone's life, and then 2020 is gone and they haven't done anything to change someone's life, and that's just what happens. So what's my solution? This is what most people haven't done. Exercise number 5, avoid the thorns by selecting a time. Dedicate a specific time to personal evangelism. And I gave options. There's Sabbath afternoon, Thursday night, Sunday morning, and it doesn't have to be a long time. I put what is currently the best 2-hour weekly block for you to dedicate, or 1 hour. So that's the exercise. I want you to write something down there. Think for a minute. Your current schedule, we're going to give 1 hour or 2 to doing something to win a soul. When do you think would be the best time? Because if you don't do that, guess what? It'll never happen. And churches, I tell them too, look at your calendar. So easy to get caught up in church stuff. What about, can you dedicate a month? When an evangelist comes in, sometimes I'll tell them, look, for 11 months, do whatever you want. But for the 1 month I'm here, let's work together. Let's work together for this time. So hopefully you had a chance to try to think about your schedule. If you're going to give an hour, what's the best one? All right. Next one, sharing your faith. There's different ways to share your faith. There's 1 Peter at the first. But sanctify the Lord in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks a reason for the hope that's in you. So we have to be ready, but I encourage people to have 4 different levels of response. A phrase, a paragraph, a page, and a pamphlet. Sometimes people get gung-ho and they'll give like an 800-page book. If people just ask a simple question, they may not really want that. So the example I give there is the Sabbath. That comes up a lot. But here's a question. Why do you go to church on Saturday? I always say because I love Jesus. And they might say, well, others love Jesus too. But why Saturday? Because that's the real reason we keep the Sabbath and we keep the 10 Commandments. We love Jesus. We love the Lord. Well, I love God too. So Now they're ready for a paragraph answer. Yes, many others love Jesus just as much as I do. And Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. The fourth commandment is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. And so that's more of a paragraph. And that gets to the point, and you might say, wow, I never heard that. I'd like to study that. Or, you know, if you sense that, then you do kind of a page or a pamphlet, something you like to hand out. And so try with the Sabbath, try in the remainder of the page. We'll take a minute. What would you say to someone instead of the Sabbath? Say, I saw at work, you know, or whatever, you know, why didn't you eat the pepperoni pizza? Or, you know, why don't you, the question would be, you know, why don't you eat pork? And so write down there your answer, your phrase. I'll give you the answer, because I love Jesus is the best way. And then if you were going to go beyond that to maybe a paragraph, write down your answer. All right, next we'll look at the next page. The reason we write out these things is because you'd be shocked. The question comes up, and we have no answer, and we've missed that opportunity. The reason we're doing this training is to equip everybody so that you're ready for whatever comes at you, because sometimes it happens so naturally, it just surprises you, and if you're not prepared, then it's kind of, and you might not get that opportunity again. So getting to know people. Evangelists used to use this acrostic for FORT, which stood for family, occupation, religion, testimony. Even though this the book is boot camp, I've changed it to some evangelism for everyone, because boot camp scared people more like, oh, military, we're going to take this town, but the military language can scare some people. But I came up with another one, LOVE, which stands for location, occupation, vacation, experience. And here's how you do it. And this comes up all the time with people. You know, hi, Mike, how long have you lived in this area? Where did you live before moving here? Where were you born? Go back as far as you can. Do you have any family close by? Now, why would I want to know these things? Because I'm thinking beyond just that answer too, right? I want to know, all right, this guy got family around here? Are they from here? Not just because I'm afraid his family and friends might influence them not to follow God, but maybe God can use them to win all of them. I can tell you tons of experience where one or two people in a family, like my uncle, but in others, they've won 20, 40 people. I remember one guy, he'd baptized like 23 family members through him. It was amazing. So you want to know that kind of stuff. So that's location. Then occupation. Where do you and your spouse, what do you kind of do for a living? And I put schedule because that's what I really want to know. I really want to know the Sabbath issue. If they say, I'm a weekend cook at Longhorn Steakhouse, I want to know. But maybe I know someone in church who's a cook. They can become friends, or maybe he can help as we plan for maybe a different job for the person or something. That's occupation. Next one, vacation. What do you like to do when you're not working? This is critical, and I put there. Match them up. I like to golf. I like to fish. I like to sew. I like to quilt. I like to go bike riding. I like to go on walks. I like to go camping. I don't care what it is. Match people up with common interests. And like I joked about this morning, learn about things you have no interest in, just so that when you meet someone, you can talk about anything or do anything. My son was laughing at me. He's like, you talk to people about stuff you don't even like or interested. I know that's how an evangelist thinks. We're looking at every angle to try to reach somebody. And then so exercise 7, try to do that very soon. And see how far you get. You'll at least get the LOV, but then the E is difficult because that's where you get more religious. And I put that because I think experience is a better angle than religion. Religion is a bad word for a lot of people. What's your experience with spirituality, God, church? And remember any key dates or experiences when you talk to people, because and this conversation doesn't have to be quick like we did it. It can be a while. When I go into a house as an evangelist, let's say I'm visiting somebody, I look at every book in that house. I look at pictures. I want to know. If I'm quizzing a student or doing a field school, I'll ask them when we get back in the car, what books did they have? Who's in those pictures? What kind of stuff are they interested in? What videos did you see? Or, golf equipment or whatever. That's the eyes of an evangelist that you'll get over time. Just know what to look for, what to ask. You just walk in and you can kind of zone in on things that really matter. The next one, I'll just touch on a few because I mentioned the middle quote in there. And the critical part of personal revival comes from evangelism. I'll look at the first quote, which is the second paragraph. I put this one in here because so many of our churches fall into this temptation of I'm going to perfect myself first, and then I'm going to reach out to other people, is what she says. Those who would be overcomers must be drawn out of themselves, and the only thing which will accomplish this great work is to become what? Intensely interested in the salvation of others. So that's actually how God sanctifies us. Not by saying, oh, woe is me, I've made all these mistakes and I've got so far to go. Don't focus on yourself. Focus on others, and God will sanctify you. That's how He's done it. And that's how He continues to do it. I always try to stress that quote because I've seen that at a lot of churches. They're like, well, we don't want to do outreach or evangelism right now. We just want to take care of ourselves and perfect ourselves, and then we're going to reach out. That's the devil's trick. Because guess what happens next year, and they still got problems in that church? No more outreach. The next year, no more outreach. Before you know it, 7 years, they haven't had a baptism. And it's because of this many times. God sanctifies us as we become intensely interested in other people. And so don't worry about your shortcomings and all your problems. Just do something for God. Next page, levels of involvement. This is an issue for a lot of our churches. There's some churches that I've worked with, they are primarily retired people. Others have more young people. Others have Adventist churches in general. We're more spread out than any other denomination, whereas the people who were here this morning drove further than any other church will drive tomorrow. Those are more localized, usually. Adventists, and that's why sometimes when they criticize us about Wednesday night, they don't realize our people don't really live near their churches many times, and we really keep the Sabbath, so the rest of the week we're busier than the people who go to church for 1 hour on Sunday and then they mow the lawn, and they do everything else. They don't really keep Sunday, so they just got 1 hour or two. For Adventists to understand, we are spread thinner with our scheduling, but this is what I tell people to do. There's 3 levels where you can be involved during that hour we dedicated earlier, that someone like me or your pastor would need your help. The first one, I put mail. That includes email, social media, whatever. Correspondence of some sort. This could be through the personal notes, Bible study students, It Is Written, viewers, Voice of Prophecy, whatever, former church members. You'd be surprised just calling through the directory what will happen. Or mailing. Next one is phone, calling people. And the next one is face-to-face. There are different comfort levels with all 3 of those categories. And some people truly, physically cannot go and visit others. But I can tell you stories of putting people to work who couldn't even leave their house and just writing little notes in envelopes for me for people. Or making little phone calls. I said, look, God can use you. So don't think it's only face-to-face and door-to-door. There's ways God can use you. When I'm doing a meeting, if it's a big meeting, I'm making 100 phone calls a day for the first couple weeks. I'm just on that phone, leaving a message if nobody's there. I only called twice. I try not to call more than that. I called 7 times one time, and the lady was like, I'm going to call the police. So I learned 7 is a bad, 2 is a good number. And call 1 time, they don't answer, leave a message the second time. So exercise number 8, select during that hour that you're going to give, what is most likely the one you'll stick with and most comfortable with. Helping with some mailing stuff or some internet stuff. The reason I'm asking that is because you're pastor, and I can even help get you a list of when people call into It Is Written or Voice of Prophecy or any of the media ministries, they keep those names. And there's local people here. I used to work off of that, and it's free. And I would just call them and say, look, I'm Tom or whatever with It Is Written, and just wanted to call you and thank you for being a viewer and see if you had any prayer requests. I did that with one church, and I think I generated about 80 Bible studies in a few months just doing that, and they're free. Amazing facts, names, or whatever. You can get them. Your pastor can get them, and you can mail them or email them, call them, or visit them. The next one, this is critical and takes the most time, is creating an interest list. You would be shocked how many churches don't have this. And that's even when they've spent thousands on evangelism, and we come to town and they don't have a list. They don't even know who to work with, who to call, who to phone, who to visit. So here's how you evaluate an interest by creating a list. I put up there, a quality interest list includes basically name, address, just whatever we can get. But here's how you grade people. And you can't judge people, but in general, this is how I grade people when I'm trying to figure out who's interested and who's not. An A is an attender. This is a non-member coming to church at least monthly. Churches are full of people like this, spouses and children of age to be baptized. I remember one church I worked with, they were like, well, we don't have an interest list and it takes a lot of time. I said, look, let me just sit down with you for about 3 hours and go through the directory and develop an interest list. And this was a church of about 300 members. We found out in that church there were 57 A interests. Spouses, friends, caregivers, whatever, that were coming to church already there once a month. And I said, look, you're going to be so busy now. A B, this is tricky. Because most people would consider a Bible student who has done 30 Bible studies through the mail as a higher interest than a spouse that comes to church, but they're not. Because they've done it from a distance. The attender is coming to church already. They're coming to church already. B, a Bible student. A C, this would be kind of a non-theological contact of the church. They came to some other seminar, or let's say a cooking school, or a parenting seminar, I don't know. That's a C. I remember one church, they did a Mother's Day banquet. 400 women came from the community. They throw a big thing for Mother's Day. I was coming to do evangelistic meetings with that church. I said, that is fantastic. I said, give me the list of those people so we can mail handbills to them. Well, we didn't get anything like that. I thought, you had 400 women come here and you didn't even find out who they are so we can follow up? Frustrating. But that's a C. Then there's a D. That's a media name, or someone that nobody knows that we've come in contact with, but they don't come to church, they haven't done anything theological. And that's what I say here. Attenders are most likely new to the church. They're already part of the church, but not officially. The casual Bible student who receives information but does nothing about it ranks lower than an attender. This is true even if the Bible study student understands more. Like, there may be somebody coming to church that doesn't have as much theological training as the person doing it online, but I have met a lot of people who like to collect certificates. And they love to talk about the Bible, and they might tell you all the greatest things they've studied, and they're convicted about this and that. But if you're going to focus your time, you focus on an A who may not know anything, but they're already coming to church. And that's how I grade. So, like, say I'm doing a meeting and there's a bunch of people coming, and I got to decide, who am I going to focus on? I focus on the attender. They came on Sabbath. Yeah, but they didn't come to the meetings, and this other guy, he came to 15 meetings at night. I don't care. He's still a B. He hasn't come on Sabbath morning. Come Sabbath morning, they're automatically an A, even if they only came one night during the meeting. They've, like checkers, they jump that be. They jump them. And that's usually a surprise to people. They think, no, a guy who's come to 15 meetings ranks higher than someone who came this Sabbath morning. Nope. Because it tells me a few things. Number one, they're already kind of part of the church. Number two, they don't have any real issues to keep them away on Sabbath. So they're much more likely they're going to join the church because of that. Whereas the person coming at night, I don't know. And even if they talk as if they're so interested, I want to see them in church. I want to see them on Sabbath morning. Next page is critical because this is where you can use your directory as an evangelistic tool. I guarantee you, your church directory has inactive members on it. Many church directories have people on there that have passed away. But how do you use that? And I'll tell you how. And why would we reach out to them? Look at that fourth paragraph there. When inactive and former members are treated correctly, many of them come back to the church on fire for God. But the reason I also follow up on them, they may have some new friends, coworkers, neighbors, and maybe even spouses, kids, since they left. A lot of times people will tell an evangelist, well, there were former members, we don't want to waste much time, energy there. She's bitter or he's angry. Or I said, well, even if they still are, I guarantee you since they left, they might have a new spouse and some kids and roommate or whatever. So don't give up on them. There's other people in that picture. So here's the 4 things to focus on when you're reaching out to inactive members. The first one is critical. Don't defend or pretend. What that means is if someone has been hurt by the church, don't defend it or pretend that it didn't happen. Always apologize for the pain they feel and encourage them to move forward with you by their side. People get caught up in this a lot. And I would encourage, as I pastored, church members to do this for me, because look, maybe they're mad at me. So just give them a call and just see. And I said, don't defend me. I had a lady call me one time. She said, Pastor Joe, I don't know what to do, but this man I was talking to, he just doesn't like you, and I don't know if I should call him anymore. I said, look, don't worry about me. You reach out to him and just say, oh, yeah, I know, Pastor Joe, he has a lot of, he's human. I said, don't defend me. Don't pretend that their feelings have not been hurt. They've been hurt. But don't waste time saying, oh, our pastor, that's not true. Our pastor's a good man, or our head elder, he's a good person, or our Sabbath school teacher, she's a nice lady. Just let them kind of get it out, and don't pretend it didn't happen. Sometimes people just want someone to talk to, and just let them get it out off their chest and move on. And just say, oh, I'm sorry that happened, and I want to be here with you in the future. That pastor's gone, that somebody's gone, that, or then maybe they're still here, but let's walk together, and we need you back. Next one, I talked about biography, not theology. Don't focus on the theological issues, because many times the real issue is something that happened to them. This happens with former members all the time. Everyone thinks, well, he doesn't believe in the Sabbath anymore. Maybe, but it's probably something else. Most people leave the church over personality stuff or feelings getting hurt. It's very rare that I've encountered somebody where it's purely theological, the reason they're not coming to church anymore. It's very rare. The next one, that's where I talk about the ragged remnant. If the church has hurt them, just stress that our church is a collection of imperfect people trying their best to worship and reach out together while we wait for Jesus to come. That's a better approach. Don't defend the church. Just say, I'm sorry this happened. We're just regular people. And then the last one is this is the golden nugget. This will get you a long way with people. That's why we need you. Our imperfections are not reasons to avoid us, but to join us. So let's say, I'll make up some strange ones, but I don't like your church. I don't like the carpet color. Well, that's why we need you. Come help be on the decorating committee. I don't like that church. I don't like the music at that church. Well, come help us. That's why we need you. Come help us learn better how to help with music. I do this all the time. That's why we need you. Please come help us. That church isn't friendly. Nobody at that church is friendly. That's why we need you. Show us how to be more friendly. We need you. So it's a better approach to say we need you than you need us. When a former member stops coming, they don't need that. We need you. That's why we need you, not you need us. And then sometimes I gave out letters or phone scripts, but I think down there what I'll have you write is if it's best to try to call or visit a former member, and the best approach you should write down is just to say, I've been thinking of you, and see how things are going, anything I can pray for. Same with media name, prayer. Trust me, there's people on your directory, you don't even know who they are. And I would guess, as much as this church has grown, there might be people in your membership list that no one here knows who they are. And like I said, that's a free resource right there. And then you'd be surprised. You get inside in that house, in that mouse hole, and you see there's more than the former member. There's a spouse or kids, or before you know, it's like, wow. And then you go by there once a month, see what God will do. Now, I will say this, it's not, you can write this down too, it's not a hard, fast rule, but in general, I will say that for every year someone has been gone from the church, it takes probably one positive contact to bring them back. So if it's been 20 years, it might take 20 positive contacts. The next one, seeking a Bible study. Here's how you find a Bible study. Let's say you just want to find somebody. The first one, personal contacts. The next one, an interest file we talked about. The next one, media interest we talked about. You can have your personal ministries person talk to, like I said, Amazing Facts or whoever. The next one are surveys. You could do some calling or door-to-door, just doing a survey. What would you be interested in? And the next one is just put a little ad in the paper. You'd be surprised, there's a lot of free resources. I did this one time. I put a $25 ad in the newspaper for free Bible study, and sure enough, I was busy doing Bible studies. Put an ad online, whatever. And you'll find one. If you do all those different things, you will find somebody to be involved with. So how do you keep a Bible study? Next page. There's some key things I put in the bold there. Lift Jesus higher. What that means is always keep the focus on Jesus. The subject and the schedule is critical. Don't let people jump around on you. What about the mark of the beast? We'll get there. Don't worry. We'll get there. Let's stick to our schedule. Let the Word of God do its work. I remember a quote from my uncle, like a photograph, expose them to the light and they'll develop. So let the Bible do its work. I have seen hearts change just by the Bible being opened up. Stay positive, that's critical. Never let any kind of a Bible study turn into an argument. Keep it positive. If you have to backtrack, but no one wins an argument. There's two people that lose. The next one, be real. Meet people where they are. Once you or your family was learning these new truths. Another exercise that's not in here, but if you grew up Adventist, I want you to find out who was the first in your family. And you may have to do a little digging. But I want you to know for certain of how they became Adventists. And know that story, because as you enter homes and you work with people, it'd be good to know that. One time your family was in the same situation. Somebody reached out. And then reaping a Bible study. The next page. This is important. This is a closing skill that's important to know. FFF technique. So, I understand how you feel. Others have felt the same way. But here's what they found. So there's the example, the Sabbath. I've learned a lot this month. I'm convicted about the Sabbath, but I might lose my job. I understand how you feel. There's a common concern. You're not alone in this, because many others have felt the same way. What they have found is if they make the decision to follow Christ and follow through with their decision, the Lord will take care of them. We are here for you as we go through this. And make sure when you say that, it's not just words, because they might need some help to get through that. But the reason you do that FFF is you don't say, well, they say, well, the Sabbath's a real problem. You can't say, oh, I understand. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything about that. No, you don't give up. Just say, I understand how you feel. Others have felt the same way. But here's what they found. Next page. The what if. This is how you find out when people give an excuse or an objection. Is it an excuse or an objection? Is it real? Let's say the example there. I would really love to become part of your church and have enjoyed these studies, but I do not believe in tithing. I don't believe it's a New Testament principle. So the temptation would be to get in a long debate about tithe. But find out first, is that the real issue? It's usually not the real issue. More of a heart issue, something else going on. And so before you take that bait, I would say the what if. Well, let's say the Seventh-day Adventist Church didn't believe in any tithing. Would you be ready to become a part of the family then? So I want to find out. Is that really the issue? Because usually it's not. Usually it's not. But what if? Biography, not theology. There's an example of that. I don't care if all this stuff is true. No church or authority figure is going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to be part of any group. The Bible doesn't teach I have to join a church. I might ask, do you mind me asking if someone has hurt you, maybe a church leader or authority figure, or finding out? Just remember, it's their life that has made them feel that way. Something happened to make them feel that way. Next page, calling to decision. And this is critical, and you'll need to know how to do this, and you'll get more experience through the years, because I plan today that this is a lifetime training event, not just for today. The rest of your life, these things are going to be good for you. Keep this book. You want to do a divine diagnosis there on the bottom. I do this with people too. From their head to their heart, their gut feelings, and then their feet. So here's an example. I want to start with their head. Do you understand that Saturday is the seventh day of the week made holy by God at creation, and that He is calling us to keep the Sabbath holy? You'll see evangelists use these decision cards, and you'll see we have those 4 levels in them. Because I want to know. I want to diagnose your head. Then number two, do you feel God calling you to keep the Sabbath? And you can do this with a person one-on-one. These 4 questions. Do you understand their information? Do you feel? And then their gut feeling. Deep down, do you want to keep the Sabbath? And then their feet, when are you going to do something about it? When will you start, should say? When will you start keeping the Sabbath? So you can do this with people. A divine diagnosis quickly when you're studying or meeting people. Go from their head to their heart to their gut to their feet. And that's what I have to do. If I'm dealing with a dozen people, I'm going to focus my time on a person who's gone through all 4 of those, and they're ready to go. With the others, if they're not convicted in the head, then I have to prioritize my time with someone else. And it might come later. Preparing for baptism. That's critical. And you can be part of that. I talked about in other parts of the world, and even in our church, elders can baptize, and I like church members to be involved with that process with the local elders. And here's the best way to prepare someone for baptism. Number 1, propose. Like a wedding. Invite them to join. You've been attending the meetings of Bible study. You've heard the heart of our beliefs. You've been a blessing to us. And we would love to have you become part of our church family. Is that something you'd be interested in? You'd be surprised how many people are just waiting for us to show them some approval. Because they'll never ask, or they'll be afraid to ask. Maybe they're not good enough. If you go out on a limb and show them, yes, you are, we want you, we need you, propose to them, it changes everything. Number 2, if the answer is yes, it's important for you to know there's 2 ways to join our church. Baptism through immersion, but if they've been baptized through immersion, they can join through profession of faith. Let's say they're Baptist. They don't have to get rebaptized, but a lot of times they choose to. Those are the 2 ways to join our church. And it's good to know that, because some people don't want to get rebaptized. They've been baptized just like we do a baptism, but and then number 2, then you review the vows in the back of the baptismal certificate, where sometimes people want to do that after. Propose to them first, and then go through the vows together and finalize the Bible studies. And then I have the 13 vows listed right there, the next page. When I do evangelistic meetings, I'll ask people on these 13 vows to put a question mark if they have a question, an X if they disagree, or a check mark if they do agree. Why would I do that? Let's say I have 50 people and I pass this sheet out. I already know on each one of those people there might only be one question mark, might only be one X, or there might be all check marks. Ready to go. When you do it with one person or 2, you just kind of go through them once you've proposed. The next one, talks more about new members and getting them ready for the church. What we believe, why we believe it, how some apply it. You need to do that because they're going to get hit at potluck with who knows what. So let's look at health. I heard Adventists have to be vegetarians. Well, what we believe, our body's the temple of the Holy Spirit. Why we believe it, the Bible provides basic health principles, and then how some apply it. Here at this church, you'll meet some that are vegan or vegetarian or other things. Usually what I'll tell people is, You'll meet some that eat like a cow, grass. You'll meet some that eat what the cow produces, milk, cheese. And I said, you'll meet some that eat the cow. I said, all the way along that spectrum. So you're trying to kind of prepare them. Now, why would I do that? Because I know they're going to meet all kinds of people. And I don't want them to be discouraged and lose their faith, all the work we've put into them. Because somebody, hurt them or they saw something. And so, whether they're trying to figure out all these different things, just try to prepare them. And that's good to go through. Look at the next page, returning and training a new member. And here's how you evaluate people, too. The bottom there, 3 levels of sin. So let's say somebody's doing something and we want to work with them. They're doing something, we want them to change, we don't like it, but we want to find out why and what we can do. So you can't judge people, but through these 3 levels you can kind of classify people. Ignorance. The Bible says God winks at our ignorance. Weakness. The man who told Jesus, help my unbelief. Or pure rebellion, that's a problem. I don't care. Let's say the issue is smoking, or I don't know, whatever else you can think of. If somebody says, I never knew that smoking was bad, I doubt that's the case nowadays, but, whatever it might be. That's different. But if they tell me, sure, I understand I shouldn't do this, but I'm weak, and that's a different person. I can work with that person. But someone who tells me, I don't care, it says rebellion is like witchcraft in Samuel. So that's how I would judge somebody on lifestyle issues. I don't care. I'm going to do what I want. Then I'm probably going to work with the number 2 person who's just weak about something. That's how you evaluate. Next one. This is critical as you do some soul winning, is the keys to keeping church members. Because nothing breaks your heart more. Putting forth all this effort. Someone gets baptized and you come back a year later and they're gone. But here's how to prevent that as much as you can. Stay in touch with them. Encourage them to strengthen their relationship with the Lord. Connect them with some sort of a Sabbath school or small group. That's a big deal. If all people are doing is coming to church, they're going to fade away sometimes and you won't even know it. Next one, open their eyes to the whole Seventh-day Adventist family. It was exciting for me 10 years ago to be able to take new members to General Conference, 70,000 Adventists at the Georgia Dome on Sabbath morning. That was awesome. So bring them to camp meeting or other conventions. Let them see it's more than just Chestatee. We're a great church, but there's a whole lot more out there. And that's important for new members. The next one, some resources. And then the one that's really important, a lot of new members get burned out because we put them to work too soon with too many offices. You want to encourage soul winning over some local church leadership. The reason is, the bottom there, they know the most non-Adventists, and they're still on fire. So don't get them over-involved, at least for the first year or 2. Let them lead you to other people. Because what happens? We join the church, and everyone we know is in the church. And that happens to new members, and they get disconnected from the community. And the final challenge, be a co-laborer with Christ. Don't let excuses, schedules, critics' ability stop you from doing what you're created to do. And only heaven will reveal the impact of our efforts. I told you about Sandy, who reached out to my family. She won't know until heaven. And you won't know till heaven the efforts you've put forth for somebody. And it'll be exciting. But thank you, guys. Let's stand up and I'll say a prayer. Like I said, the books, we blazed through some of the areas, but the books are yours. DVD are yours. But my greater encouragement is don't get too much training, just put some of the things to use. That's more exciting than having us get trained a lot, but put them to use. And let's pray together. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this afternoon. We've covered a lot, but these are some specialized training techniques that will help in winning souls. So Lord, I pray for everyone that's here today, not only everyone here today, but those that they will talk to or share training with for the rest of their life. Use them as a soul winner in some way with someone, both now and forevermore. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys very much. I'll be praying for you. And you keep in touch with me. They have my email and Facebook, and you need questions answered, you write me about something.